Get on with session 9 on our daily routine. We talked about intake, taking in food, water, air, sunlight, when to do that. And we'll also talk now about our daily routine, when to do what kind of activities. All the way from getting up in the morning to going to bed at night. So this, in the program for health, this is one of the practices that we need to follow so that we can have a healthy body. We'll see the routine activities we do on a daily basis and why we do certain activities at specific times of the day, and how we can synchronize all our activities with the natural rhythms in nature. So what is the daily routine? It is the routine activities that we do on a daily basis. What time we wake up, what time we get to the toilet, what time we have bath, what time we eat our meals, what time we drink water, what time we do outdoor activity, sleep, all that. So how do you decide what is the right time to wake up, to eat your meal, to go to sleep? Is there a reason why we do certain things at certain times in some sequence? Or is this some random practice? So we talked about this earlier. If you observe plants, they seem to open up their leaves at dawn when the sun rises, and the leaves seem to close up at dusk when the sun is setting. The birds start chirping at dawn and they appear to rest when it is dark. Human body is also a unit in nature, and it is impacted in a very definite manner by its environment. The rising and setting of the sun, the day and night, all this has a major impact on the body. If we understand it, that is great. If we don't understand it, it's not that it doesn't happen. It will still happen. It's just that we may not be aware of it. So observe your own body. Here too, many things seem to happen in a definite manner at definite times. Body is impacted by its environment. It doesn't have a choice in that. That is how it is. So if you are paying attention and you haven't had a very big breakfast, you will notice around maybe between 11 and 12 or little after, you will notice some sensation in the stomach. The sensation of hunger. Because digestive juices are flowing in the stomach. Some sensations are being, generated in the body. And if you pay attention to those signals, you identify it as hunger. So how does the body seem to be late at night? Does it feel light or does it feel heavy, dull? How does it feel at night to you? Light or heavy? Do you feel like you want to rest the body, or you feel like you have lots of energy? Rest. So the body doesn't have a choice in these matters, but you have a choice. You can understand the body, you can understand its environment, and you can choose wisely. based on this understanding. This is just depicting the day-night cycle. Approximately, if we say sunrise happens at 6 a.m., approximately sunsets at 6 p.m., then the entire time between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. is the day, and the rest of it is night. Now, in addition to this day-night cycle, there are specific times in the day which have certain specific attributes. For instance, we talked of the human constitution, the body constitution. Similarly, in nature also, certain characteristics are prevalent at certain times during the day. This cycle is depicting that. So in the morning between 6 and 10, this is the wet, moist time. Between 10 to 2 is the maximum heat time, where we were saying when the sun is also at its peak. Then the cool, dry time is from 2 p.m. to about 6 p.m. And then the same cycle is repeating at night. So why is this important? Because at these times, specifically, some things are happening in the body. And if we understand that, then we can go according to that routine. In modern day, we talk of chronobiology and biological rhythms, where you can see the scientific approach to the similar things. Chronobiology is a term which is given to the modern day scientific study of biological rhythms and how the internal clock of an organism synchronizes with the environmental cues such as those of light and temperature. This is very crucial to understand health, to understand disease, what is the optimum way to function. So if you disrupt these rhythms, then you can have sleep disorders, metabolic issues, mood disturbances, chronic diseases. We all know that mood changes may be happening when we spend time outdoors in the sun versus when we spend time indoors without the sunlight. Has anybody noticed mood changes with exposure to sun? You can raise your hand if anybody has experienced. Similarly for sleep disorders, if you are going and doing exercise in the night time, it's not the most appropriate time, because that's the time when the body has to rest and we are actively utilizing the muscles. So we are disrupting that normal pattern of the body and so on. So 3 types of biological rhythms have been identified. 24 hours, which we talk of as the sleep-wake cycle. Many changes keep happening on a 24-hour basis, related to release of hormones, to body temperature regulation, and so on. Then you have the ultradian rhythms, which are less than 24 hours. So they happen several times in a day. They repeat more than once in 24 hours. So for example, we have sleep stages. Are we aware of this REM sleep and non-REM sleep? Many of us will be aware of that. REM sleep, for those of us who don't know, REM sleep or rapid eye movement sleep is the time when we have our dreams. And non-REM sleep is the time when there are no dreams. So every day at night when we go to sleep, it's not like we sleep at night and keep sleeping till the morning. We are going through a cycle every 90 minutes or so. We go through, first we are trying to fall asleep, then we have a light sleep, we go into the dream stage or the REM sleep, non-REM sleep, we can go into deep sleep, and then the cycle reverses. Then we start experiencing again the REM sleep, again the process of coming out of sleep, and then again we go into another cycle of 90 minutes. And it goes on like this through the night. That's why you keep waking up in the night sometimes. But then you can go back to sleep. So that's about the sleep cycles. They keep repeating several times through the night. Brain waves, cycles of high and low frequency waves in brain activity, they occur every 90 to 120 minutes. Similarly, hormones like growth hormone and cortisol, they are released in pulsatile bursts throughout the day. So these are examples of rhythms that are repeating several times in a day. Then you have the infradian rhythms, which are lasting for more than 24 hours. So for example, menstrual cycle, which is going by the lunar cycle, month, once in 28 days. Similarly, there are seasonal variations, changes in mood, changes in many things in the body with change in the season. Those variations also take place. In a higher level workshop, we can discuss more details about the seasons. In 2017, these people, Hall, Robash, and Michael Young, they got the Nobel Prize in Medicine for discovering the molecular mechanism that controls circadian rhythms. They identified as something that they call the period gene, which is essential for the internal clock in living beings. So these discoveries, and even before these discoveries, I think in our tradition, this has been known for a long time, many of these things. But once we understand how these internal clocks are working, then we can anticipate or adapt to the rhythms in nature so that we can have better health. So now if we look at the day-night cycle, and if we assume 6 a.m. is sunrise, you will see that from 6 to 10 a.m., many things that relate to cleansing of the body are happening. So, like we were talking the other day, phlegm comes up. You tend to clear your throat, you tend to clear out the secretions, predominantly in the morning, isn't it? Yes? Bowel movement, predominantly in the morning. So all cleansing of secretions is happening in the morning. And secretion inside the body of stomach enzymes is starting to take place now that the sun has come up. Then at 12 noon or so, or between 10 and 2 is the time of maximum heat. This is when the digestive fire is also at its peak. So the body can digest better. From 2 to 6 p.m. or you can say starting from 2, after 2, the digestion process has come down. Now the absorption and assimilation process has started. This is a cool, dry time. Then again, the cycle goes on, the secretion time, then midnight. At night when you sleep, many times you will be in deep sleep. The liver is undergoing some regeneration and repair. That's why it's so important to sleep. In fact, if you see, this whole time between 10 and 2 is a time of regeneration and repair, detoxification of the body. Liver detoxification starts from somewhere around 11 o'clock. And then from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. again it is that airspace time or the cool dry time. And waste removal is happening through the kidneys. Detoxification process is happening in the kidneys. So this is the normal way that the body is going through the cycle. If we understand this, we can help the body's processes to be functioning more effectively. If we don't understand this and we do things at whatever time we think is right, it may not be so right for the body. So today in science also we have noticed certain changes happening at certain times. So many things that science is saying today are on this. Whether everything coincides with those cycles, I can't say. As research keeps going, these things may change. I don't know. So, if we see how the body is functioning, we can decide and choose when to wake up, when to do what we do. Wake up time, the suggested or recommended wake up time is roughly about 1.5 hours before sunrise. And we'll come to why it is like that. Cleansing time is a little after that. Breakfast time, the recommendation or suggestion is before 8 o'clock. Lunch time, I mean, if you want to give it time, between 10 and 2, but at least by 2 it should be over. Close to noon is when the digestion is at its peak. Dinner time, preferably between 6 to 8, and close the dinner by 8. Bedtime, actually this should be between 9:30 and 10, or at least by 10. So now, in all of this cycle, some things are happening at certain times why we need to get up at a particular time, why we need to do some activities at certain times, let's look at that. Early rising, we've all heard of Brahma Muhurta. So the night was divided into divisions of time which were called muhurtas. So 15 muhurtas. Each muhurta is about 48 minutes. So what is being suggested is that the ideal time to wake up is the penultimate muhurta, the muhurta which is last but one. So if you take 48 plus 48 minutes before sunrise, that would be at the time when it is the last but one muhurta, which is approximately 1 hour 36 minutes before sunrise. Therefore, we are saying approximately 1.5 hours before sunrise is a good time to wake up. What is so special about this time? It's a very peaceful, quiet time. You are very fresh and alert. It has been linked with a lot of creativity. You tend to get more creative ideas at night, at this time. Therefore, people in the traditional sages and those people who have awareness of this, they always talked of meditation best time being early morning time. It has also been linked with longevity. How many of us have read the book called Ikigai? Anybody? Ikigai. It's a book written by two authors. I think we'll have the note about that at the end of the workshop. So two people, it was found that one of the islands in Japan, Okinawa, has the maximum number of people who are centenarian, living beyond 100 years. So these two people went to find out what is it that they are doing, that they are living more on an average than most people on this earth. So one of the factors they found in that was that they are all early risers. And if you will find that this early rising habit is linked with longevity. If you rise early, there can be more complete evacuation of the bowels, and we'll come to that also, why that is so. So better toxin removal, better health. Of course, you will be synchronized with the day-night cycle very well. Nascent oxygen in the atmosphere is in very high amounts prior to dawn. So this combines with the hemoglobin in the blood more easily, therefore leading to increased alertness, energy levels, activity and immunity. That's the scientific reason behind. So all of the reasons point to why we should try to wake up early, preferably at Brahma Muhurta. And in many traditions we will find this. The terms may be different. In our country we are calling it Brahma Muhurta, but many traditions will have different patterns and their own traditional reasons for it. If you look at the scientific reason, this is the time when the cortisol rises and time when the melatonin fades. So this optimizes the circadian rhythm. There is alertness, mental health, improves concentration, improves emotional well-being. Of course, it promotes readiness for daily activities. Pre-dawn quiet supports neuroplasticity. Then after you wake up, then what? Observe the body. So get out of bed. Don't sit in bed to try to observe. Sit up. The eyes can be open or closed. Just 10 to 15 minutes observe. Have you slept well or not? Are you relaxed, rested, or you are tired and tense? You can quickly scan the body and see, are there any aches or pains, any stiffness? Is the body light and alert or sluggish and heavy? Muscles are relaxed or tensed? Food seems to have been digested properly, or is there some pain, acidity or gas? Check your breath pattern. Then have a look at what's happening in your mind, what kinds of thoughts, what kinds of feelings. Are you peaceful or are you agitated? Why do you need to observe? Of course, you want to be conscious, you want to be aware of what's happening in the body and what's happening in the self. And then, according to whatever you find, you can make adjustments through the day. Another early morning activity is hydration. Before sunrise, we said we can take up to warm water up to 1 liter. You can do any self-awareness practice, meditation and so on. You can plan for the day. Now, how does the intake of warm water at this type up to 1 liter, how do we explain that? So if you see, we said this is the time when the air is cool and dry. The body is also cool and dry at this time because the atmosphere is like that. So now if you give it warm water, it is countering that cool dry effect of the environment. Therefore it is useful to have water at that time. And even if you have up to 1 liter, it is helping the body because the body requires it at that time. It is the dry time. Going forward about the cleansing of the gut. The natural sensation for the bowel movement to leave the body, or for the bowel movement to happen, when we sense that sensation, we need to pay attention to it and go to use the toilet. When should you go? When you sense that sensation. It will be soon after waking up, maybe after observation and hydration, because that will also, the hydration will also help for the smooth transition. Why early morning? Because there is better evacuation of the bowels. How is it better in the morning? Because early morning, two things are happening. One is gut peristalsis is increasing. Soon as you wake up, gut peristalsis starts increasing and you will start noticing some movements in the bowel. Increased blood circulation happens in the large intestine. So both of these factors help in the bowel waste to be evacuated properly in the morning. So supposing we keep sleeping and we wake up at 8. Now neither can you drink the water after 8. If you're drinking 1 liter of water, you are going to interfere with the secretion of digestive enzymes. So better to have the water early only. At least 1 liter if you're thinking of having. The other thing, now the sun is rising, or the sun has risen. It is starting to heat up. Things are starting to heat up. When things are starting to heat up, the waste matter in the intestine also starts drying up with the effect of the sun. When it is drying up, it is hardening. It is becoming harder for the motion to be evacuated. And you don't have these advantages. So ultimately, boils down to the fact that evacuation may not happen completely. How often to go to the toilet for bowel movement? Once or twice a day is fine. Morning, and some people also prefer to go in the evening. How long should it take? It should not be that you have to sit in the toilet for half an hour. You should be able to go in 5 to 7 minutes and come out. If it is taking too long, it should not strain, because that's going to hamper the harmony of the body. Just see, if it's taking time, that means I need to adjust something in my diet, in my water intake, so that next day can be smoother. Maybe I have to have more fiber, whatever it is. So if you're not able to go, think of all these things. More water that day, fiber foods, normalizing the sleep-wake cycle, because whenever the cycle is disturbed also, this disruption may happen. Daily exercise. Indian style toilet is helpful because of the position in which you sit. It causes more pressure from the abdomen for the motion to be evacuated. We should not suppress or ignore the sensation. Otherwise, if we ignore it and we get into constipation, and this is happening habitually, the rectum only becomes less sensitive and ultimately can lead to piles, fissures, and those kind of problems. So if you look at cleansing processes, we talked of the bowels. Similarly, you have cleansing of the eyes. You can daily bathe or splash the eyes with cool water. So you can hold a mouthful of water in your mouth, which is ordinary temperature, not too hot, not too cold, and splash your eyes. That is supposed to be very soothing and beneficial for the eyes. Cleansing of the nose, we all blow out the nose. You can put oil or nasal drops for cleansing purposes. Oral cavity can be cleansed, the teeth, the tongue, the mouth. Because if the teeth are not clean and food particles are stuck and bacteria act on that, you get plaque. And the acid in the plaque then erodes the enamel, you get cavities. And when these hardened calcified plaque is there, it forms tartar. So cleaning teeth should happen twice a day, morning and night. At night time, we are keeping our mouth closed. And if we have not brushed or if we have not cleaned the teeth, chances are food particles are there and the bacteria are going to settle in, and the mouth is closed all night. There is chance of problems with the teeth. What to use for cleaning? We have toothpastes. If possible, we can use those toothpastes which have minimal additives or chemicals. We can have herbs which are natural, there are no side effects. Earlier days, neem twigs used to be chewed on. There are also some herbal tooth powders. And for gum massage, you can use the fingers. That is very effective. Tongue, we can use a scraper. Better to use a metal scraper, not a plastic scraper. And you can scrape the tongue 2 times a day, morning and night. For the mouth, for the entire oral cavity, you can do oil pulling. How many of us are familiar with oil pulling? So many people are there. Are we doing on a regular basis or no? weekly. So oil pulling, you are swishing some oil in your mouth for 15-20 minutes and then you rinse it out. You can do this twice a day. This will get rid of many of the bacteria which are going to cause problem in the mouth. It also strengthens your gums and teeth. So even if you're having some gum issues or teeth problems and you do this process, it may take care of that problem also. So for every problem, the dentist does not have to pull out the teeth. Sometimes you can strengthen the gums and not have to pull the teeth out. Then you can massage the body with any natural cold pressed oil. Just because you have to apply the apply the oil on the skin, it does not mean that any oil will do. Whatever oil is good for consuming in the body is the only oil which is also good for applying on the skin. Unless, of course, it is a medicinal purpose, something. Because it is going to get absorbed through the skin also. So refined oil is not a good option. Cold pressed oil is okay. Bathing. The ideal time for bathing is early in the morning. The water temperature can be the normal room temperature water, neither too cold nor too hot. Avoid warm water over the head. It makes the hair dull and lifeless. It is harmful for the eyes also. Again, there can be many options to use. Try to use herbal powders or natural cleansers. They will be gentler on the skin than harsh soaps. At least once a day, we all need to take a bath. We can also bathe more often, especially depending on the season. So traditionally, everybody must have told our parents, grandparents, have your bath, then eat. After eating, don't go have bath. We are all aware. So, why is that? Do we have a mic? You can pass it.
Due to heat variation, it causes digestion problem. After eating, we are going for the bath.
So what is happening is that if you have eaten, now the blood is limited flow, right? There's limited amount of blood in the body. Now the blood has to go to the digestive area to digest this food that you have eaten. Now you go for bath, right? If we had done the other way around, it was fine. But now when you're going for the bath, particularly some people have different temperature water bath. Again, it can be a problem for the body, because whenever you are taking away blood from, or blood is going to one part of the body, it will have to go less to some other parts. And especially if you take hot water bath, with hot water your blood vessels, all that is opening up. Your fingers, toes, all that is now getting, or when the hot water is coming, now more blood tends to flow there. But the blood already has to flow in the stomach for the digestion. Plus, it is required for the vital organs, the heart and all that. So now there is mismatch. So now it can create problem for the body. So why get into all that? have bath first, then eat. Or at least if you go for bath after, it should be very minimal quantity that you have eaten, so that it doesn't interfere. Regular oil massage of the skin. What does regular oil massage do? Of course, the blood circulation improves. It is linked with increased longevity also. Improves muscle tone and strength, delays aging. It's nourishing to the skin, the dryness goes away, muscle aches and pains become less, it increases muscle flexibility, and if there's muscle fatigue, it helps in the recovery. If we do scalp massage regularly, headaches will be relieved, hair fall and graying of the hair is reduced, and of course sleep is improved. Many times for our children also we might be giving them a head massage and then putting them to sleep. So when to do massage? Same thing. Before the bath, before eating. How frequently? Once a day or at least once or twice a week. Now if I have a constitution which is causing dry skin, I may need to do it every day or maybe even twice a day. So it depends on, you can see how it is for your body and then adjust it accordingly. What oil should you use? Any natural cold pressed oil like mustard oil, coconut oil, sesame oil. So here many of us may be using sesame oil, and that's fine. Coconut oil is also fine. Coconut oil is cooling for the body. Mustard oil is heating for the body. So appropriately if you use in the season, then it is better for the body. How should you massage? So if it is cold weather, mildly heat the oil, then use it for massage. In the limbs, you can apply it in the direction of hair growth. Massage it so that the increased circulation is there towards the heart. And around the joints, you use circular movements. The hands and feet, they have many pressure points. So when you press or massage these points, it impacts the entire body. Various internal organs get stimulated so that they can function better. So all of these are helpful things in massage, and in our tradition we have been always giving a lot of importance to it. How to take care of the eyes? When we are reading or doing anything which requires fine work, minute things, say fine print or fine embroidery or whatever fine work we are doing, first of all, we should sit in erect posture with proper lighting. Avoid reading in dim light or while lying down. It is going to strain the eyes. Focusing eyes on something for long periods of time can lead to a lot of strain on the eyes. So for example, these days we have laptops, systems that we are always looking at, mobile screens. So that's not so good. Try to blink frequently to relax the eyes. So if you're looking at a screen, every 10, 15, 20 minutes, look away, look at a far point and blink. Otherwise, we even forget to blink if we are so focused on something. When you're watching TV or on a monitor screen or a laptop, keep the room lights on rather than dimming the lights or being in darkness. A theater is a different issue. But when you're using your own home mobiles and screens and all that, try not to put off the lights because it's going to strain the eyes even more. Keep the room lights on. You can keep the mobile screen on lower brightness mode so that there is less strain on the eyes. All the mobiles have that option, so you can make it on less bright. Especially at night, you don't need that much brightness. Avoid excessive time in front of TV, laptop, mobile and other screens. Regularly we can do some eye exercises, keeping the head and neck erect, moving only the eyes. So you can do up-down movements. Where is it? So this is depicting up-down movement. So up and then down, up and then down. You can do this 4 times, then side to side. One side and then the other side. 4 times. Then angularly. This way and this way. 4 times. Circular movements. This way and then circular movements other way. And then focusing the eyes far or near. You can use the tip of your finger. Focus on the tip of the finger, take it far, bring it near up to the nose. Same thing you can do on the side. So all these are going to help your eye muscles get toned up. Meals we talked about roughly. So 3 meals a day should be enough. If we are having a very sedentary lifestyle, if we are more than 40 years or so, then 2 meals a day might be fine. Breakfast can be 7 to 8, latest by 9. Otherwise, it is going to be too soon after that to have lunch. It will not get digested. Minimum it takes 4 hours for stuff that you put in the stomach for it to leave the stomach. So, lunch 12 noon to 1 p.m. at least finish it by 2 p.m. Dinner 6 to 7, latest by 8 p.m. If you're having 2 meals, then you might want to make it some other timing like lunch 11 o'clock, dinner 6 to 7. So you have some options. You can decide based on your own convenience, age, constitution and so many other things. The gap between meals should be minimum 4 hours. And sometimes you can keep it up to 8 hours also. It depends person to person. Breakfast can be light. Why? Because the digestive fire is low at that time. That is the time when the body is going through cleansing. So the body is focused on cleansing and we are giving more food to the body to digest. That's going to disturb the body harmony. So breakfast can be light. Lunch can be moderate when the digestive fire is at its peak. Dinner can be very light since there's very low digestive fire, very low activity. So one way to do it could be, breakfast could be some fruit, lunch could be a normal, hearty, balanced meal, dinner could be soupy with less or no grain, depending on the age, depending on other factors also, of course. So this is a suggestion. This is not to be taken as 100%, it has to be this way. This is one thing that you can sort of take a suggestion from. Exposure to nature and the natural attributes. So remember we said that this body is a physical or a material unit and it is made of the 5 attributes in nature: earth, water, fire, air, space. So since the body is made up of these 5 attributes, being in contact with these is beneficial for the health of the body. But if we isolate from any of these, it can cause ill health in the body. So if you look at earth, being in contact with the earth, walking bare feet on the grass or mud is beneficial. This is referred to as earthing or grounding. How many of you have heard of this term, earthing or grounding? So there is a movie called Earthing Movie, which is a full-length movie that you can see. I think it is there on YouTube, which will tell you all about the benefits and some instances. If you don't have time for that, there is another shorter movie, 15 minutes, called Down to Earth. You can see that. So, in tradition, we also have things like mud pack, mud bath. Now you can see the impact of that, no? Because it is one of the natural attributes. If we are bringing it in contact with the body, it is going to be beneficial for the body. And it's very cooling. It cools down the body. Wearing shoes or slippers all day, all night is not a good idea. In one of these, I think it was the Earthing movie or one of them, they have interviewed some people, and one of the people was saying, I realized that from the morning when we wake up, I am never ever putting my foot directly on the ground. The person is getting up, putting the foot in the slipper, getting up from bed, going to the bathroom, slippers, having bath with slippers, changing, putting on shoes, going out, coming back with the same shoes. So the whole day is going like that, with either shoes or slippers, with no contact with the earth. That's not such a good thing. We can avoid that. Similarly, water is another attribute. Contact of the body with water can be very therapeutic. In naturopathy, they use one of the...
Ma'am, 1 second. Ma'am, for this I just wanted to share our experience. So 1 year back we conducted one program for our staffs. So therein we took everyone to Chola Art Gallery. So it is in Injambakam, and we made everyone to do this nature walk. So everyone were asked to remove their slippers and shoes in bare feet. It was for a few distance they have to walk only in the mud. So everyone, they gave a very good feedback. So they were telling like it was very nice. Initially they hesitated to do, but we spoke to them, we told them what are the benefits and everything. Then it went on very well, and we got a very good feedback. Actually it was like a family thing. So we asked them to bring their family members also, and we told them strictly no one should speak with anyone. So you spend your own time, have your me time, you walk with yourself and interact with the nature. So it was completely a nature walk, and we also told them no mobile phones. So they were, you talk with yourself, talk with nature, that's all. So they were walking barefoot, and at the end of the time, at the end of the walk, they gave us a very good feedback. They said like it was so good. So we were feeling our body to be light, like that. They were giving so many feedbacks.
True. And if you see these movies, that is actually anti-inflammatory. So inflammation also in the body comes down with these activities of walking barefoot and all. So in naturopathy, there is one branch which is called hydrotherapy, where they use water as therapy. And of course, we all know of the therapeutic effect of hot springs and geysers. In Bhutan, they use what is called a hot stone bath. That is supposed to be very beneficial. If you look at fire, the element of fire, we can correlate it to sunlight. So being in sunlight in the early morning hours is very beneficial. Otherwise, we can get vitamin D deficiency. So vitamin D formation requires sunlight. But besides that, people who have not seen the sunlight for long, they tend to get into mood disorders. Not so much here, but in cold countries, it is very common to see that depression increases in the winter time, especially in seasons where sun is not coming out. More people tend to have depression. So being indoors all the time, no outdoor time, that's not a good thing. If you look at air, being in fresh outdoor air or living in houses with ventilators and windows with cross ventilation, that is important. That is also an attribute. So the body has to come in contact with that. Maximum time indoors in an air-conditioned environment is not a good choice. Consumption of water. We talked about this earlier, when to drink before sunrise. That's very beneficial. That is the air, space, time, cold and dry environment. And this warm water helps also to cleanse the bowels. It primes the digestive system, getting it ready for digestion during the day. Drinking large amounts of water after sunrise, not so helpful. Now the digestive enzymes that are being secreted and released in the gut, they will get diluted. It will reduce the digestive strength of the body. We also talked about more water in the first half of the day. And if you do that, the water will give relief from heat. It will help with the digestion of the food because your major meal is in the daytime. And it will not interfere with repair and regeneration which is taking place in night. Supposing we have water late at night, then we have to keep waking up to go to the washroom, and we are interfering with that repair and regeneration. And if you're taking more water in the night, there will be more load on the kidneys. So, therefore, better to take maximum intake of water in the daytime, less in the night. Bedtime. A good night's sleep is important for the repair and regeneration processes to happen. So many times in the day we abuse the body in so many ways. We ill-treat it in so many ways by doing all the wrong things, without understanding, of course. But at night, the body recuperates. It goes through this process of repair and regeneration and gets better. So how long should you sleep? It varies. If it's a baby, newborn babies sleep 20 out of the 24 hours. If it's a teenager, maybe approximately 10 hours, because they are growing. Babies are also growing very fast. Teenagers are also going through growth spurts, so they need more sleep. Adult needs about a third of that, of the time, approximately 6 to 7 hours. So some people say 8 hours, but some people can do with 4 hours of sleep. So depending on our own, whatever we feel is right for our body, for us, we can choose that time. Approximately by 10 o'clock we should go to sleep. Why? Because again those processes are going to start, repair, regeneration, detoxification. We don't want to interfere with them. So if you go to bed at least by 10, by the time you're in deep sleep, those processes will keep happening. Can you compensate by sleeping in the day? No. Why not? Because you will be dull, you will get poor quality sleep in the day, your day-night cycle will get disrupted. And of course, the repair and regeneration which was happening at night can't happen because we were awake that time. So for all those reasons, don't try to stay up at night and try to compensate in the day. If we have difficulty sleeping, how can we sleep better? Some amount of daily exercise is required. The body, if it undergoes exercise, then it will require that rest at night. So you will be able to sleep better. You can regularize your routine. If we have been having a very awkward routine, waking up at the wrong times and all of that, we can try to regularize the routine. Avoid naps during the day. That will help the sleeping at the night. Avoid, especially at night, stimulants, bright lights, large heavy meals and drinks at night, because that will also interfere with sleep. And of course, we know the role of melatonin or sleep hormone. If we don't interfere with it, then it will allow us to sleep. But if we are interfering with all these bright lights, then melatonin release will be hampered. We won't be able to sleep. I think that's... Besides this, there are some other natural cycles, the monthly cycle, the seasonal cycle, the annual cycle. But this we'll not get into because that will take a long time. So far, whatever we have discussed, if there are any questions, we can talk about that. Or the sessions today, where we can update something on our health tracker. Have we found something? How many of us have written down something? Very nice. So very good. So whatever changes we want to make in our health, if we note it down, then we can track if we are able to make those changes. And in a longer term, try to see if it impacts the health. Try to see if it has made a difference in the health of the body. You may be able to notice some changes. Yeah, you were saying something?
Ma'am, I adopt with the cycle what you have mentioned here. But the only thing is, morning, no, you said that we need to intake water, that too 1 liter. I am unable to do that. I have practice. Not possible for me.
Don't have
maybe
to.
No. If it is that which will help improve my health, but I am able to do just 400 milliliters of water only. I can able to drink. So that's a challenge for me.
See, I said maximum up to 1 liter.
Okay.
That does not mean everybody has to take 1 liter.
Okay.
It just means for your body type, maybe you don't need that much.
And
What was your constitution?
BC.
See? The C part is making you retain water.
Wow, okay.
Isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Earth water.
Yeah. And another thing, I do stretch exercises, pranayama, everything, and a vegetarian. But what I'm coming to say is, I gain weight, even I take very little food. But also, balanced diet, everything. But I'm going every year. I go for all checkups and everything. Nothing found. I don't have diabetics, BP, but everything is in low BP, low sugar, like that way. But I'm unable to find out what's the reason I'm gaining weight.
So basically, the constitution also makes you retain fat, fluids. Remember we talked about it. Fats and fluids are retained by the body in that constitution, earth water type. So what you can do is, yoga, pranayam is one part, You can also do more strenuous physical activity. That might help to reduce the weight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Another thing that you can do is, rather than cut down on food that you're eating, make some different choices in the food that you're eating. So that, if you take whole grains, for instance, if you're taking white rice, switch to brown rice. You will drop the weight, certainly. If you're taking things with sugar, change to jaggery. You will drop the weight. So many things like that can be done.
Ma'am? Yes. Ma'am, you said about the bowel movement. So is there any separate exercise for bowel movement, or normal exercise is enough for the bowel movement?
Normal exercises.
Normal exercises.
See, especially, say if you're walking. Now 10-minute walk may not do it, but if you're doing a 45-minute walk, each time you're walking, your abdomen is moving this way, this way. All that movement inside is making things move in the intestines. So it is helpful. Even walking is helpful. Other exercises, aerobics, whatever you do, some exercise, it will be helpful.
That is enough. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Ma'am, you said 2 times, that is the eatable things. In the adult, they can take 2 times only, the food.
I didn't say only.
Not only, that is the eating habit is 2 times, 11 o'clock and around 6 to 7. So in the morning time, we can take any other light, that is the drink, milk like that.
Certainly. Certainly. Okay. Milk, fruit, something like that, something light.
Okay.
I know that in the West they say, what is it? Eat breakfast like a king or something. Have you heard of all that? Every time we talk about this, people come up with that. What about eat breakfast like a king and something, dinner like a pauper and something? Huh? So, if we understand the body processes, if cleansing is happening, then why forcibly put so much food in the stomach that is in, the body gets confused, it has to do this or it has to do that. If we aid the body process of cleansing, we'll eat cleansing foods which are light, which will not cause strain on the body in the morning, and we'll do it early. If you have breakfast like a king, how are you going to eat your lunch when it is maximum digestive fire? You can't eat much then, isn't it? So, I think if we understand body processes, then we can make our own choices. Just because somebody said, we have to, the whole point of this thing is that we can try to verify and validate for ourselves what works for us. So this is not like a statement that you have to do it like this. These are suggestions. So you can try them out, see what works for you, and accordingly keep changing things, tweaking them.
Ma'am, what are the herbal powders for bathing?
Yeah, so if you go to some nature shops and those kind of places, you will find those. Traditionally, people have used sandalwood, this powder, turmeric, this chana dal powder, the besan. All those things are like herbal things that you can use to cleanse the body.
Okay.
We are getting soaps also.
So can we use that?
What is that?
Same like sandal soap, in natural shops only, ma'am. So we are getting all those, what to say that, Nalangamavu soap la solrangala. Neem soap, like that we are getting many soaps in that material itself. Olive oil soap, or some coconut oil soap, all those. So is it better to use that?
I won't say better, because the natural ingredient, you know what you are using. But it also depends. If there is 1 drop of olive oil in that big soap bar, then I don't know how effective it is. But that's what many times marketing does.
In our home, we used to prepare soaps our own. That is using coconut oil and all the ingredients. We used to prepare soap our own.
Yeah, that's nice.
We are using that.
So you can tell everybody how you used to prepare the soap, then they will also prepare.
Ma'am, same for herbal powders also. What are the herbal powders besides then we can use for toothpaste? Rather than toothpaste, herbal powders.
Rather than toothpaste.
Yes, ma'am.
So there also, if you go to...
Gopal
There will be many traditional Ayurvedic shops where you will get herbal powders.
Yes, ma'am.
To cleanse the teeth. Also neem twigs. Although it may seem like difficult, but really speaking, if you just chip off the front of the twig and you put it in the mouth and chew on it, you can keep doing all your other work and just keep it in the mouth and keep chewing.
Okay.
And then finally you spit it out and throw it away. That is also effective.
Like chewing the neem stick.
Yeah, neem twig means from the tree only you take one small branch,
Okay.
take out the leaves and use that.
Hello, ma'am. On the side. In my area, I am from Agra region. So in Mathura and Vrindavan, I have seen millions of sages and saints. They don't use the ordinary chappals and shoes and footwears. They use wooden footwear. So does it also relate to some kind of health and routine cycle?
Yeah. So again, wood is something which is natural. It's been made into a piece of something that fits the foot. But really, one is that it is a hard surface on which the foot is being kept. So the pressure points on the feet are getting pressed. So that's a very good thing for the foot to be kept on that. Of course, everybody doesn't have the practice of using those. Khadao is what you're saying, right? So, but those who can, it is a good thing. It's helpful, beneficial for the body.
Second one, I'd like to share one experience. I never used any soap or any cream or powder. I just use the ordinary water regularly, and I think that is more than sufficient for cleansing and for everything.
Nice.
Ma'am, you said about the leaf, something you said.
We have the diagram and also you can see that.
Okay.
It's a plant, it's a creeper that climbs.
Okay.
Yes, I agree. We will go out next session. Yes, that's why today's session is outdoor for some earthing and something. We will do it.
Okay. Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, what is hot stone bath, ma'am? We don't know that.
Yeah, it's what I have seen in Bhutan is something like they have a stone. It has properties, I mean, it's a natural thing, a rock or a stone. They put it in a tub and it's with hot water, not very hot, and you can be in that tub, and from that stone, whatever comes from that stone into the water, that is supposed to be very healing for the body. People may have different variations of it in different regions. I only saw it in Bhutan.
We usually steam that hard stone. We put it immersed in the hot water. We take steam of that.
You are doing that.
Not.
I was talking of bath in a tub. Okay, shall we do the sum up?
Yes, regarding earthing, ma'am. Like walking on the natural sand or the natural ground, is that earthing, or walking on this tiled floors?
See, as far as possible, if it is the natural floor, natural stone, then that is also good. If you have artificial stuff, made tiles which are not using the natural things but some artificial chemical process something, then it won't have that impact. But say if you have marble, no, that is a normal stone, that will have that benefit. So outdoor also, if you see cement is a different kind of material.
Also tar.
Cement, if you put your feet on the grass or on the soil, you will notice the coolness. Now when we go out, you try to notice that. When you put your foot on the grass or on the earth, the soil, you will notice it becomes very cool. Same thing if you put on the cement, you may not notice that. Then we can have the break. In me. Every morning we can do this practice. Early morning hydration can be done with drinking water, warm water, up to 1 liter before sunrise. We can go for cleansing of the bowels, then do the other cleansing processes of eyes, nose, ears, teeth, mouth, then have bath. Massaging we talked about. Meals can be in sync with the day-night cycle, with the largest meal of the day at the time when the digestive fire is at its peak. Other activities in the daily routine, earthing and exposure to all the natural attributes in some form at some time during the day. We talked about having sleep in sync with the natural cycle. That it is the significance of good sleep is it is a time for regeneration and repair. And whenever we sleep well, we wake up as if we are recharged, isn't it? We wake up and we feel very fresh. I had a good night's sleep. But if we don't have a good night's sleep, how do we feel? Very dull. So it's very significant to have a good night's sleep. That is required. Because even though you are not doing anything, the body is working and it's going about its regeneration and all that. Okay.